Our Earth is home to many fragile ecosystems that are essential to the environment. The ocean holds many marine ecosystems. One of the biggest marine ecosystems is the Great Barrier Reef. It is home to many species that allow each other to survive. One specific organism in the Great Barrier Reef ecosystem is the clownfish, the Amphiprion ocellaris. The clownfish is a fish that lives in warm water, sheltered reefs, or shallow lagoons.
It's beautiful.
So, Coral?
And the neighborhood is awesome.
Clownfish lives in a mutual relationship with its shelter, the sea anemone. These fish form a mutualistic relationship with sea anemones, which is a relationship in which both species benefit. Sea anemones protect the clownfish from predators, while clownfish eat the dead debris off of the sea anemone.
Forgot to brush.
Oh.
Do you want this anemone to sting you?
Yes.
Brush.
Okay, I'm done.
Up, you missed a spot.
Where?
There.
Because of this mutualistic relationship, there's interest-specific competition for habitat within the clownfish species.
Because a lot of other clownfish had their eyes on this place.
You better believe they did. Every single one of them.
You did.
Interspecific competition is also present in clownfish's ecosystem because other fish rely on the same resources to survive. For example, the diet of clownfish is shrimp and algae, and other species, such as the blue tangfish, also feed on shrimp and algae. The clownfish benefits from its relationship with the sea anemone. However, it cannot always keep it safe. The clownfish has many predators in its ecosystem, such as the shark and barracuda.
I'm having fish tonight!
Remember the steps, mate!
Male sex organs mature first, so when a lot of fish are first born, there are more males than females, which makes finding a mate harder. Once they mature, the clownfish develop female egg cells. Breeding for this species occurs any time throughout the year, and the female lays 100 to 1,000 eggs near or in the sea anemone for protection. They often get eaten by many sea creatures because they are released into the ocean. However, the ones that do survive find shelter in a sea anemone. The average clownfish has external features which include fins, orange and yellow stripes, eyes, a mouth, a stomach, an anal fin, scales, a lateral line, a spinal dorsal fin, a soft dorsal fin, pectoral fins, nostrils, a vent, a tail fin, a gill, cover, and pelvic fins. These features help the clownfish survive in the ocean and obtain energy. Clownfish have many internal features as well, and this includes a brain, gills, a liver, a stomach, gonads or eggs, a swim bladder, an ovary, intestine, a spinal cord, a kidney, a heart, a spleen, an anus, a urinary bladder, a dorsal fin, and a pancreas. The ocean are affected by global warming, and this is affecting the food chain of the clownfish. Coral reef ocean acidification affects clownfish as well. Coral reefs are where clownfish live, and due to ocean acidification, their habitat and diet are affected. Coral reefs are made of calcium carbonate, which provides a strong, rigid structure that helps create the clownfish's habitat. Ocean acidification decreases the rate at which corals calcify, which could cause them to become brittle and break easily. Ocean acidification will impact the prey of clownfish because plankton and algae rely on the chemicals of the ocean to build their calcium carbonate shell, but with ocean acidification, this process will be disrupted because they become soft and no longer have protection, so their main source of food will begin to die off, which affects the food chain. Also, clownfish confuse their predators from prey with ocean acidification.
Hello?
Well, hi!
Ocean acidification has possible long-term effects on the food web. They wander away from home, more likely to get eaten. They also can use their hearing to escape predators in coral reefs, but without this ability, they're an easier target. Their sense of smell is defected, which means it is harder for them to catch prey. Typically, clownfish stay close to coral, but as the water becomes more acidic, they tend to wander farther and farther away from home, which is dangerous because of their departing from their habitat. This affects reproduction as well because it affects the larval stages of fish eggs because they cannot withstand all of the acid in the ocean enough to be born. So this can affect the clownfish's ability to reproduce and expand as a species. With the transition to electric cars, there will be less carbon dioxide emission that will be released into the air, which means there will be less carbon dioxide in the ocean.
In America, cars are dominating passenger transportation. Although they are effective in transportation, the emissions of CO2 from cars negatively affects the environment. In the United States, 1/5 of all emissions are from cars and trucks. That is nearly 24 pounds of CO2 and other global warming gases for every gallon of gas. However, car companies have been making efforts to reduce that emission rate by trying alternatives to gas-powered cars. Electric cars have helped to reduce the emissions that are released into the atmosphere, which makes for less pollution in the air. Companies such as Nissan, Tesla, and Mitsubishi are considering electric cars, and their technological innovation is helping the world take steps towards reducing CO2 emissions, which will create a better life for future generations.
Electric cars do not release emissions directly into the environment through the tailpipe. Unlike electric cars, gas-powered vehicles have a tailpipe that releases harmful gases into the atmosphere, such as carbon dioxide. This is dangerous because there are many CO2 emissions that are being released through the tailpipe, which causes air pollution. Electric cars use batteries instead of gas, which can not only reduce direct emissions, but also extend the life of the car. The cost for fuel is less, so more money is saved over time without the constant need to spend money on fuel. Battery electric vehicles can also be charged at homes, which is convenient because people do not have to go to a charging station. Electric cars also have the added benefit of naturally producing less noise and disturbances as compared to alternative vehicles with gas or diesel engines that may disrupt peaceful areas. Even though there are positive aspects of electric cars, they are not perfect. The upfront cost is higher, but the price will change as they become more popular. Also, because it is a new technology, it takes longer to make new improvements and designs, which leads to a lack of consumer choice. Electric cars include a battery that make up 40% of the weight and require a long recharging time. Specifically, lead-acid batteries require 8 to 16 hours of recharging time and must always be stored while charged for a risk of the inability to be recharged. The largest concern of electric cars is that it still creates CO2 emissions. Even though the emissions are not straight from the tailpipe, emissions are released during the manufacturing process of the car because of the large amount of energy that is required to extract enough electricity from the power plants to power the car. This is a large concern because electric cars are indirectly causing pollution that is still harming the environment, of which many people overlook. In gas-powered vehicles, all powering sources such as the cooling system and the engine make up only 25% of the car's weight. Gas-powered cars have a tailpipe which releases CO2 into the atmosphere, which harms many organisms. Whereas transitioning to electric vehicles can decrease the amount of emissions from 4.7 metric tons of pollution to 2.3 metric tons. This means that extracting electricity from the coal power plants is more efficient than using a gas-powered vehicle because of the drastic difference of emissions that are released into the atmosphere.
Since the electric car is new technology, the way it works is different than an average car. The gas-powered tank, which is present in normal vehicles, is replaced by an electric motor. The motors in electric cars are controlled by the rechargeable batteries. Opposites attract and likes repel, so the north and south magnets work together to power the motor. These attracting and repelling forces create rotational motion. There is a controller that mediates the amount of energy that is transmitted from the battery to the motor so that it is at an appropriate speed. Specifically, silicon-controlled rectifiers, SCRs, allow for the most amount of energy to be exerted between the battery and the motor for full efficiency. This is also useful because these controllers regulate the battery from being overheated and the motor from being underpowered. Electric cars also have inductive chargers that use magnetic energy to recharge the batteries for full safety and to prevent electrocution. There are many types of batteries that can be used to fuel electric cars, but lithium-ion batteries are the newest innovation of technology that can obtain a large amount of voltage that exceeds other batteries, such as nickel cadmium and lead acid batteries.
Electric cars have a rechargeable battery that powers the car and makes up 40% of the weight of the vehicle. Specifically, lithium-ion batteries are the newest innovative battery that has almost double the energy density of nickel-cadmium batteries, all of which were popular prior to this invention. Lithium-ion batteries cause less disposable harm than other batteries such as the nickel, cadmium, and lead-acid batteries. One large problem with lithium batteries is the fear of aging, unable to be reused after 2 to 3 years of use. However, it's expensive to manufacture as well because of the complex makeup and function of these batteries. Lithium batteries have a series of cells, each including an anode, cathode, and electrolyte. The anode and cathode connect to create an electric current because the electrical conductor carries energy from the anode to the cathode to create the current. The anode donates electrons and the cathodes accept them, which allows for the flow of energy between the two to create the current. The electrolytes are between the anode and the cathode and creates positive currents in the form of cations because electrons are lost due to the chemical reaction between the anode and the cathode. The electrons and cations meet at the cathode where reduction or a chemical occurs. This process is called reduction oxidation. Specifically, in the lithium-ion battery, the cation is the lithium ions which flows from the anode to the cathode. Lithium ionizes to form positive ions. Lithium ionizes to form positive ions. Carbon is the most commonly used anode, and lithium cobalt oxide is a commonly used cathode material. This flow of lithium ions from carbon, the anode, to lithium cobalt oxide, the cathode, creates a high voltage of 3.6 volts, which is almost double the voltage of the typical nickel cadmium battery. This gives the high energy density of lithium ion batteries.
Electric cars do not emit carbon dioxide into the atmosphere directly. However, the energy it takes to create the electricity that is used to power the car does burn fossil fuels, and it burns fossil fuels in order to make that excess amount of energy to power the car. Anything using electricity is indirectly causing pollution because it requires the burning of fossil fuels to extract that electricity from the power plant. Electric cars rely on the type of electricity that powers the vehicle to determine the amount of emissions released. If it is coal-powered, then fossil fuels will be released into the atmosphere at a high rate. If it is solar-powered, then less emissions will be released.
Coal is generated into electricity by first being converted into powder. This allows the coal to burn more quickly, which then releases emissions into the air. In pulverized coal combustion systems, the powdered coal is blown into a combustion chamber where it is then burnt at a high temperature. This then gets converted into steam, which gets passed into a turbine. A generator is put at the end of the turbine with wire coils and helps convert the steam into electricity when the coil spins at high speeds in a magnetic field.
Either way, electric cars release less emissions into the atmosphere than gas-powered vehicles. This is because despite the fossil fuels that are burned in the manufacturing process of electric vehicles, they are still forming the electric battery manufacturing process, and even with the emissions released from coal power plants, it does not compare to the amount of CO2 that is released into the atmosphere from gas-powered vehicles.